Hey guys, Robbie here from CrossFit South Bend. Today I'm here with Emily, who just finished her 3 months of nutrition coaching. Emily, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
So first thing I want to talk about, even though it's not just about the measurements, Emily did a fantastic job and she basically ended up losing 30 pounds while her muscle mass stayed the same, while she ended up losing 12% body fat, and then 22 pounds of the total weight loss was basically fat. And then she lost 4 inches on her waist and 3 inches on her hip. So you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I feel good. I just switched back to night shift, so I'm a little groggy right now. But overall, I feel that like my body is doing more what I want it to. That I'm more in tune with what it is doing. That it's not like I just am inside my body. I am like we're together. We're one thing now. So
Good. So tell us a bit about what eating was like before you started doing this.
I definitely ate out a lot more, and just something quick. I did try to, pick the healthier eating out options, but that's all relative. And then I guess you don't realize until you start doing the food journal how you're really eating. So I would have probably argued that I ate healthier than I actually did. And then doing the food journal kind of showed that I was eating a lot of red light foods that I didn't have to have, or like at work, those little mindless snacks that you don't recognize that you have because you're writing everything down. And so almost immediately I stopped mindlessly snacking because then I had to write it all down, and I didn't want to write down all of those things. So that was like a big eye opener for me, that I was like eating things that I didn't like really realize I was eating, and none of those were good for you because those are. Someone would bring chips to work and there'd be an open bag, or occasionally there would be like someone would bring fruit, but that's once a month versus once a week. So that was definitely a lot of like bread carbs that like when I would eat out, that's what it would be, and now that's not the case. So
Good. So take us through the journey. Take us through like what was month 1 like, where we were gradually working up, and then month 2 with the Whole30, and then the reintroduction. Tell us how the journey was for you, that whole process.
So the first week was just, I did what I had been doing and just wrote it all down. And so I was surprised that we didn't that I was like, oh, this is what I've been doing. So that was a good, I wasn't terrified at the beginning. And then it was, every goal was something that was accomplishable. And I do remember missing a goal at the beginning, and I was really mad about it. So, but it wasn't like an accusation. It was like, this is like, just wasn't made. And then from there, it was just, like now I'm making choices of, if I'm not going to eat as many bad things, which ones would I choose? And then at the final week, it was like, I don't have to eat anything bad. And I think it was almost like a conscious decision to like have a glass of like whiskey with my sister. So at that point I felt like it was already that control over food was starting to come into play, because you're conscious of what you're eating and you know that like this is like an actual decision.
And then in terms of your Whole30 journey, you and I were just talking about this. You were saying you had kind of attempted it before, but this time was different. Tell people about that.
So part of the difference was I didn't do it cold turkey this time. So with the gradual cutback in the month 1, that made it a lot more realistic for me to believe I could achieve the Whole30. And then moving forward beyond that, it was my kitchen was ready to accomplish the Whole30. That was a big. I'd already had all the food I needed. With the grocery store tour, I knew I didn't have to make a whole bunch of random sauces myself. Because plain chicken or whatever is very, very boring after a while. So they have all the different sauces that I could buy instead of trying to make them myself, which that was a lot more convenient. And then having the book resource as kind of like what to anticipate per day, because it had the days marked out. So then I would read that, or if I was having a particularly bad day, it's like, well, that's kind of what I'm supposed to be feeling right now. So that wasn't as scary. And then just knowing that that I had support, that I wasn't just off in no man's land doing it myself.
Absolutely. So one of the big things with the Whole30 is the whole concept of non-scale victories. So I mean, you obviously got major scale victories, but one of your main goals that was a non-scale victory was control over food and your relationship with food. Tell people about that.
So after the Whole30, there's been some like significant life stress and in like the holidays too. But it was really important to me to not like consciously choose to just send Robbie an email that said, "Hey, I had something I wasn't supposed to. I know you'll forgive me." It was, I know that I don't have to make this decision, and it was really important to me to not use food as a coping mechanism. And it was also like I was really proud of myself afterwards, because like once you like finally like are done, then it's okay, I've made it this amount of time without using food as a coping mechanism, and now I know going forward I have the willpower and I have the capacity and education too to make healthier decisions and to follow up, knowing that when I do make an unhealthy decision, it's like I'm not just being ignorant.
So, did you experience, besides the control over food, which is fantastic, did you experience any other non-skill victories like in energy, mood, cravings, digestion, recovery from workouts, anything of that nature?
I will say I was kind of irritated about the cravings because in relation to my menstrual cycle, they would still come. Right. And so I was really mad because I read the Whole30 book, and after you pass a certain point, you're not supposed to have the cravings. Right. So that's the only thing that I was a little irritated about. But that's realistic. And so now I know that, and so can like be proactive about that. Also, I definitely remember it was like October 13th, and I thought the workout here was like pretty challenging, but I was really proud of myself for like, I felt like my body was like working really hard, and like it was, I knew I was taxed, but I didn't feel like I was achieving. So it was like I patted myself on the back for like the capacity that my body had to achieve the workout. So definitely noticed improvement there. Since then I got a cold, but you know, it happens. So.
Right. So you work as a nurse in a hospital, one of the most overworked, underappreciated jobs in the healthcare field, but you know, harder to be healthy. What would you say to people, you know, and you've worked the night shift and you're currently working the night shift. What would you say to people who are like, oh my gosh, just I work the night shift, I can't do this, or I work as a nurse, or I work in healthcare, I can't do, what would be your thoughts?
There's always food, and patients' family members will bring us food all the time. So that's a realistic thing that will never change. And a lot of people experience that at their work as well, that there's constantly something that someone brought to share. And so it was just, no, I can't have that. It wasn't like a big deal, and I would just walk away. Because I work 12 hours at a time and sometimes have to stay over, I always have different nuts in my bag, an Epic bar, or some kind of like dry protein that way. And then typically whatever like quick grab type things, like I'll do hard-boiled eggs and sometimes fruit. And then I take 2 lunches and 2 snacks. And people think I'm crazy because I'm like, I gotta eat some more food, because every 2 hours I'm sneaking food out, which is against all the rules. And if anybody from Jayco, they like don't know where I work. But so, and you can like, sometimes like you're really busy and you don't have time to eat. So then making sure that the food I brought was nutrient dense was important. So now that like I've been meal prepping more regularly, I know which foods will sustain me for the majority of my shift or for a significant portion. And sometimes I had read like someone had written, like nurses had written like about like doing the Whole30 and eating healthy at work, and I read about that she would bring multiple options so that if she didn't want something, she would have something else to fall back on. So that also helped me to maintain like staying on track. And then working nights, they only offer like the night shift menu, which is typically, if they offer a salad, it's scary, and then most of the other options are fried or scary. I don't know how they're prepared, but so then you have to be a lot more conscientious that you bring your food, because a lot of my coworkers will stop on the way to work and pick up something. So it's making sure I get up in time to make breakfast, and even if I take it with me and eat it at work, I still have made it and I have it. So that's been the biggest thing, is just being conscientious in that way.
Okay, that's really helpful. And then I guess the last question I have is, do you think this is sustainable long term? Do you feel like, I mean, obviously you and I have talked about like, you know, of course you can have pizza for special occasion, but I mean like generally speaking, 80 to 90% of the time, do you feel like this is sustainable long term?
Now I do. If you had asked me at the beginning, I don't think I would have, like I would have probably lied and said that I believed that it was, because that was the right answer.
Right.
But as like I had success, just with one, like the meal template itself was successful, and then as I saw success, like in like my clothes no longer fit, and then saw success that it wasn't a figment of my imagination either, it was on paper. Those things were like encouraging to maintain the changes I was making. And so now it's knowing that putting good food in my body means that I will feel better and be more confident that it's like I know I'm fueling myself appropriately to do the job that I need to do at work, and then to perform well in the gym, and just to live a healthier life and feel better in a general. And now I know if I like, even just as we've added the things back in, and we've talked about like too many of the yellow things, I can tell like it's like, oh, you are eating too many, because I feel that heavier feeling, even though those aren't nearly as bad of the foods I had been eating. And so it's also being accountable to yourself that if I choose to eat something bad, I know the consequence that will have. And so now I feel that I have the education to make an accurate decision. I have the capacity in my kitchen and in like my desire to eat healthy, and then just being persistent that I'm gonna choose to do that anyways.
Awesome, absolutely. So I know I said it before, but I'll say it again. Super proud of you. I think you did a fantastic job. The numbers speak for themselves, but I think, even more importantly than that, just like, your ability to have control over food and just, control your own destiny. So I think you did a fantastic job. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And telling us your story. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.